let's get this thing back together. Just a little bit of grease. All right, so the spring works. Just want to double check the mic works. If anyone can hear this, maybe say something. My first stream ever. This one. Now, these screws here are for the other side of the controller where normally you have the trim controls, but I don't have that, so it's currently not on. That's why there are two holes there. All right. All right, so I already got this part in place here. Except there's one little triangular piece that's right here, holds this plastic piece down. If I could just remember which screw or bolt it was, I think it's one of these. All right. That works. All right, so I believe this side is pretty much done. So let's move on to the other side here. course, we want the following in the middle of the video. All right. Let's forget which way this arrow faces. I think it faces up. I have to check on my old photos. Sorry guys, I'll be right back. Just checking a photo because I just want to. Of course, what am I talking about? So the arrow, obviously, this is the neutral safety switch. So where is it? This is it. So when this arrow hits here, that's when your motor is in neutral. You can lift the idle advance, and then when you shift out of it, yeah, essentially you can't start the motor when it's in forward gear. This allows you to start the motor when it's in neutral. That's what this little arrow is here for. All right, so this part, it looks kind of easy, but it's surprisingly difficult. There's just one bolt that holds the entire controller to this piece here. But as I mentioned in another video, even though this is the only thing that keeps these two together, often this is incredibly difficult to take apart. So when you're trying to take this lever out, my advice to do it, what to do is get it in a vise, and that way you can, or get the controller in a vise. Essentially, I'd rather get the lever itself, and then lightly bang the controller in kind of a circular pattern, which will free this up and come apart. But even though this is just a simple connector like this, it gets really, really stuck. It's kind of hard to explain how stuck it gets. This controls the clicking part. So as this lever gets into this groove, that's when your motor shifts into neutral or it gets out of gears. That looks correct because we want this groove to the top as the controller would sit like this. want to get a good screwdriver. I don't want to screw any of these up in any way. Also don't want to over tighten anything as this is plastic. Alright, so now let's get this whole assembly in here. Now, so the neutral switch, which allows the motor only to start when it's in neutral, goes right in here. And this little ball rolls and goes into this groove in the center here. So when it clicks into that spot, perfectly fits in. This is where the arrow points. It's pretty simple. I think I'm actually going to try to put this in after. I'm pretty sure I can do this. Hopefully I'm not wrong. All right, here, what I wanted to do is just double check. I'm pretty sure there were some sort of little pieces in between here. First, I have it upside down. I'm half looking at my screen. All right, so we have this little piece here. We have two connectors. Definitely this one because this other one has a groove. I'm not 100% sure where that came from. I did put one in the top part, definitely. I think I see where it might go. Okay. Yeah, I think that goes right into here, the one with the groove. So this one goes here, and then this flat piece goes on top. You do want to put some grease here because this whole section will be rotating. Make sure none of the pieces of paper towel are stuck in there either. A little grease on this so it sticks and doesn't fall out. Now, So arrow is this way. All right, seems to be in. Give it a test. Come on. There you go. All right. Beautiful. This in place. And just get screwed in there pretty tightly. All right. I do want a whole bunch more grease in there. So this part is always moving. You can tell it's still not screwed in all the way. That thing needs a lot of force. Put some grease in there. Try to bolt it down more. I cleaned this up pretty well, so there was a lot of grease here before I just removed all of it. Get some in this groove while I'm here. There you go. This is where the shifter part slides. You know what? It may be all right. I think I do remember it bouncing around a little bit. This is because once you put in the second half of the controller, it pins it down in place. Yeah, this is very, very tight, so there's no way that needs to be inside of it. And double checking on the diagram. There's also nothing else that's in here that really do anything. All right. So let me try to get this little neutral switch in here. Neutral. So the ball goes into the end here. This kind of rolls. A little groove under there. I'm hoping I'm right there. I'll put this in now. Probably should have put it in first, but okay, goes upside down. So a little hole goes on the top. Get in there, spring. Alright, I'm going to cover the hole. Grease. There we go. All right. Hopefully, I know it's going to pop out in 1 second and it's going to be lost. All right, so now the neutral is in. Pin that down just 1 second. So everything's covered in grease. All right. So a piece of metal just holds it down. Keep this going in place. Now, just to show you the neutral safety switch, it's attached to all the wires at the moment, so, but this is it. And it goes in here. You can see. Press the button down. Now, one thing I do want to note is this is the part that usually breaks, this right here. So this space right in here, the corners break because it's plastic. And actually, I don't know if you can tell, if you look closely, you already see it breaking because you probably can't tell, but this is corner, that corner. Yeah, this corner is already getting slightly rounded, and the edge, so is the other one. Also, you can't really tell, but this is very, very slightly white on both ends, which means the plastic is being stressed already. I've been thinking about making a 3D printed copy of this. However, she had this random idea of just adding some like super glue or something in here, because nothing goes in here. And if I could just strengthen this little wall here, which appears very damaged. Excuse me. I'm just gonna give it a try. It can't hurt. Hopefully, this isn't one of those plastics where glue or something like that doesn't stick because it's some sort of has special properties or something. I really don't know if this is going to make any difference, but I really don't think it will hurt. And the wall, that wall right there is just, it's really, really, really thin. Really thin, that corner. I feel like this is going to do something. Just reinforce it even a little bit. I really need to copy this part and 3D print it because this is the most common failure in all these controllers. Definitely sticking on there pretty good. Seems like it is. All right, let's give that a try. Oh yeah, I know. Really? Of course I made this mistake. Seriously? Really should not have done that. Now the spring's going to pop up too. So yeah, make sure you don't make the same mistake. Put on a little arm first. I have no idea why I didn't do that considering there's almost nothing to it. And there are a couple teeth, so obviously the 2 teeth on this side go between the 3 teeth on this. Yeah, I don't think I have to take the whole thing off. See, even now this thing is not coming apart. I just put it on, and as I mentioned, this part is really, it goes on there really, really well. While I'm doing this, I'm covering the whole thing in grease again. Yes, and that was the spring that flew away. Luckily, I have a second one. I'm going to find that. I know where it fell. Why not take this out first? This thing is like ridiculous. I can't believe I literally just got this on, and it's just hard to get off. Okay. Seriously, it's like. Wow. Funny how, as I said at the beginning of the video, this part can be a real pain to get off, and here I am 15 minutes later. You really screw up this part with plastic, which makes it a little hard. Ah, Jesus Christ. I had a lot of, probably shouldn't say that. First in my video, but thing off. Pop this thing in. Now you can see the two teeth here. You go between the three teeth on this side. God, so much grease. All right. Jeez. Oh. You say that was a little bit of a fail there. So there's grease, and I can get it all off after. All right, so we can get that. The controller handle back in. Bolt. Making sure the teeth are in the correct location and the arrow is pointing towards the neutral switch. Let's get this thing back in there. It goes on there pretty hard. Should put a little grease under this here. Falling. So I'm going to put a little bit around it. That way at least some seeps down there. Get those in a little bit. Exactly how this went in. There we go. So yeah, see the arrow has to press the button. So as you switch into neutral, the button gets pressed. Just 1 second. Be right back. All right. Let's get this finished. So I'm going to use my spare spring, but I do remember where the other one jumped out to. So we'll get it a little later. But a little bit. Sure is dirty. All right. Get the neutral back in. And the hole up. The hole goes up. Get in there. Now, I believe this goes in here at the same time as well. Oh yeah, of course. That's my hands are so greasy, it's hard to turn the screwdriver. Double check the plan. Just want to make sure nothing needed to go through neutral circuit, because it has that little hole in the top, which could indicate that if you stuck something into that and there's a little spot, you can really see that. When I was watching, it is a little hole in there, so theoretically it could slide back and forth and trigger something, but it doesn't appear that way. It just, this thing goes on top and fantastic. It just goes on top, so I'm going to actually do this while I'm not in neutral, because the button will need to be pressed down. Hold this thing down. I'm pretty sure these are the screws. They're the only really long ones in this hole. Come on. way too much grease. You would think a better way to do these jobs where there's a lot of grease and kind of plan it out better so everything's not covered in. Hello to anyone that's there. All right, so now we should see. Push it down at an angle a little bit. There we go. We see the neutral which works. You can see that. So neutral, you can start the engine. As soon as it's not a neutral, you start won't work. All right, so we're getting pretty close. The electrical stuff, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to fully close this. I think what I'll do is kind of half finish up the electrical and then finish this end. This is essentially done. It's ready to put back. There are a couple small plastic pieces, 2 inserts. Let's go from here. Double check what's going on. I thought I took a bunch of pictures, but I didn't take nearly enough when I took this apart. So just look at those. So one too many things at once. All right. Oh, I see how that works. Yeah, basically this just holds the pin. This is what the shifter cable attaches to. So to prevent that from falling out, they have this here. So I'm just going to put that in now. So essentially, if you're going to put shifter cables on this, you need to remove this, put the cable onto the end, and you're good to go. It's 2 screws. There's nothing. You can tell which ones they are because they have a little angle in the shape of the plastic. Let me set and move a couple things here. I think you're doing this while hanging in there. So you can see a little groove in the plastic, which the screw bolt has. Overall, the controller, there are very few screws and nuts. It's pretty easy to figure out what goes where. If anyone has any questions, feel free. Get these 2 plastic pieces. The big side goes towards this controller. And then so I'm just going to remove that for now. So I spray painted some of these parts so they look better, except this will now need to be cleaned with all the grease too. So much grease. And this is what controls the stiffness of the controller. As you see this metal bar here, when you turn this, it pushes it into the wheel. So for example, if this is incredibly easy to move and you want to go a little harder, you can turn this knob or loosen it. I may have made one more mistake, which is get this thing on before tightening that. At least it's just one screw. So just want all the wires. The ground point is right there. This thing actually broke on this one, but I have a spare. So I always forget this part. Try to get the grounds to easily lead. Screw that as the ground has a little ring on it. Just connect those a little bit for now, just so that tension is on the cable and it's easier. All right, there we go. I got the grounds connected right here. Just so everything's kind of in order and so it's not moving around. The neutral safety switch, actually I forgot the ground for that. Oh. That goes kind of in a tight spot here, so I'm going to try to get in there early. A really tight spot. This thing is pretty important because it is the kill switch. Anything happens, you need to stop the motor quick. It should work. Alright, so we've got mostly everything here. Mostly. Alright, so get this case in here. It doesn't want to go in. Oh, come on. Come on. Maybe we'll put the bag on the wrong direction. Let's try that. Try it the other right. bad. All right, I think I almost got it here. I had it the wrong way at first. This thing is a little harder to get in there than I thought it would be. All right. Good. Yeah, I'm doing this part completely wrong. That's what happens when you put things back together first time around. I know how it all works now, but putting every single piece exactly in the right order is a big thing. And all right, that was completely ridiculous. So it's supposed to actually go here. This is for the key. No, I didn't see that. All right. So. Hello to anyone watching. Just try and get these wires back in place in a nice way. If I do it once, I'll know how to do it right next time. Quicker, but the first time is always slower, obviously. All right, so let's give this a try. After 10 attempts, 20. There we go. First attempt, because it's now correct. All right, so we have the power connectors, the adjuster, the plug. So the plug for the gauges, the adjuster for the tightness of the controller, and the wiring. Now the key will go here. This is the neutral safety thing, but still need to put the little cover on. I might as well just do that now. At least lightly turn it on. switch does have to be facing the correct way down below. This cover only goes on at certain angles, 90 degree. Just a little bit, so it stays. This thing's kind of a pain to get in there or out of there all the way, but a little easier to just get it going. You know what? I'm going to put this on later because it's a whole separate thing. I'm going to keep that here for now. So this needs to be turned perpendicular, unlike I just had it. All right, now time for, this is the speaker, which is broken. I have another one I gotta find, but just gonna keep this hanging for now. And the key. We got the kill switch, the black and yellow, starter red and yellow, power purple, and there's a little plastic piece that goes there as well. Point it correctly, obviously. So the key is nice. You don't want to like have to insert the key at an angle or something like that every time. All right, I'm gonna not wire this at the moment. I get exactly, but most of this is not really bolted down. It's just kind of in here, so you can pull out most of it. All right, so I'm just going to try to put this thing back together for the moment and see how that works. There's no point of connecting these stuff if the speaker doesn't like it. Take a photo. Take a video while I take a photo. This is wired. I'm going to disconnect it so it's a little cleaner. Let's figure out how to get these off. There's a lock or come off. Yeah, they just come out. So clicking at it like this with this flathead from below seems to be working quite well. And there we go. Let's stick out of the hole for now. And let's get the thing back in just together just to see that it actually get it back together. As I mentioned, this is the piece. These are the parts which I always break, the little plastic pieces, and I want to make a copy of this and 3D print it, but I put a little super glue in this hole. Oh, for some reason it's still wet. That's kind of odd. Why would it be not hard? I put it in there. I mean, it dries basically instantly. Just scoop that out like this. Yeah. All right. So the other half. So this pin here goes in the groove over here, and these two are for the cables. So there's a pin here, but I don't have it in here because there's no point right now. A little bit of grease, and I'll get a grease over everything again. Ideally, I don't want this to be too hard to turn. Key's a little loose because I don't have the there's a little plastic thing that goes around the key that you need to find. It's just someone box. All right, this so overall, honestly, I think it's looking pretty good. I painted this with boat top coat. The paint worked really well. I just got to clean it up again because it got grease all over it. This paint is actually super strong. I was impressed. So this thing was all completely beaten up, rusted, and not in good shape. Painted it. I didn't like how that little plastic piece in there that I mentioned that breaks a lot. It looked a little damaged, but it still looked all right. And I spray painted the handles and these little pieces. That's all right. So that's first speed lock. Lock, perfect. All the way full speed. Reverse lock. Damage the wires. Obviously, this shouldn't lift when you're not in neutral. So that'll lift. It's pretty hard. It's pretty tight, but I'll loosen up a bit. All right, so it's back together. The speaker is the only thing I don't have here, which you can technically bypass, but you want the speaker. One thing I mentioned on one of my other videos is that some of these much older controllers, I don't know if this is actually one. This is actually probably one of those where the speaker, it doesn't beep when you turn the key. So normally when you turn the key and you expect like a beep, that doesn't happen. And you can spend a lot of time figuring out what's going on, but actually the speaker doesn't support that function. All it does is just an emergency overheating alarm. So if it starts overheating, the boat will alarm. But it does not do that beep function normally. And let's turn off. Sleep already, but so yeah, this is it. Boat controller is super simple. So there's really just that one plastic piece that breaks. If you need to take it apart, just clean it up. Just make sure there's grease, it's running smoothly, and nothing is overly hard to pull or push. Usually that has to do with the cables themselves, the shifter cables, the two. So if there's way too much force that needs to be used, that could damage the controller. Just in general, as long as you seal this, probably give them a little coat of paint after and make it nice, but as long as it's not getting soaked, it's not rusted, and these controllers last a very long time. Yeah. Hope this helps. I don't know if that says there's 4 people watching. Hello to anyone who's watching. If it's my first live stream. Anyone has any questions before I kill this, let me know.